welcome today. So I'm doing a reflection on experience Florida, experience United States, experience different locations around the world, and a reflection is a location that is good to live in is one that where there is loyalty, where there is faith, where there is commitment. For me personally, add family and nucleus, good environments like that. Eso para mí son los lugares más sagrados, los lugares que representan familia, representa cultura, representa lenguaje, amor, em, el amor entre madre y padre, una familia biológica, que sus niños tengan sus padres, su mamá y papá biológico, que los ame, que tenga siendo bueno, sabiduría, so stuff like that, right? So when you're thinking about, cuando está hablando sobre un lugar and where to live, we have to consider, tenemos que considerar the implications of which we're able to adapt, right? Adaptability, poder adaptar, it's life. And one thing for me that I look at a location and I rank it, right? I rank it in my head on what does it meet. And I have to say so far, Florida is very, very, very close to passing, but it's not quite there yet. Florida, for me, is I love it, but it is a trauma triggering environment. The crime rates are higher. I read and now experiencing the location. One must be cautious. One must as anywhere. Uno tiene que estar vigilando su espacio y cultivando el espacio sagrado. So when I think about Florida, I have very mixed emotions on Florida. Um, but I do know that there are a lot of considerations. Florida for me will have to stand out in me seeing more families, connecting, bonding, and me experiencing my own family bonding here. Right, we come from one environment, we travel through different ones, and the environment shapes who you are. Right, you take one plant or a pouch of seeds and you plant them in different soils, and then what does the study say? Does the study say that one soil did better than another in nutrients, in health, and um, those good tidings, right? Those good seeds, whether that be a juicy, healthy apple, whether that be a plump orange, or spiritually, o espiritualmente, usted. So cuando uno está en el proceso de buscar o sentir home, right? What is home to you? ¿Qué representa la casa? And when I say home, I'm referring to the structure as well as the feeling. So home, eh, casa, home es un lugar sagrado donde uno puede estar where one can be at peace, feel safe and tranquil. And if you're not feeling that, then there is a lot of things to work on. Safety is a big consideration. So my experience so far of Florida is that I'm very fortunate and blessed that we are in an environment and we're choosing and able to advocate, build that efficacy toward environments that cultivate love, wealth, success, enrichment, positivity, kindness. That is lo que representa for me a place to rank, right? To live in, to call a home, right? A house or just a structure. So when I consider, cuando yo considero lo que es la casa, what is the house, the structure, I study the environment and it must bring forth peace. I've been in environments many, many, many times. Ustedes también ha estado en lugares que no se siente cómodo, but sometimes you find that right place and you feel calm and anxiety is down and you know what triggers those points. Tú sabes lo que toca o pucha esos botones, los botones de la ansiedad o la depresión. And for me, safety, para mí la seguridad es knowing that we are in the top ranked, right? Safety, top ranked, family, nucleus, top ranked locations because you are a reflection of your environment, porque eres una reflexión de el lugar donde vives. So, cuando uno considera, when one considers home or house, are you considering it the structure? Or are you considering it the internal feeling? ¿Cuál es el sentimiento cuando uno refleja sobre el proceso de sentir? Para ustedes, el proceso de sentir es algo reflejado en el sentimiento, or what do you look for when you wanna, when you say let's go somewhere? What is it that drives you? Cuando tú dices, mira, vamos para allá o vamos a hacer algo, ¿qué es lo que a ti generalmente te motiva? Answer in the chat, answer in the comments, so no importa. Cuando estés escuchando este mensaje, por favor, comparte tu respuesta. Y la pregunta es, bueno, ¿cómo te sientes? ¿Qué es lo más importante en reflejar sobre el sentimiento de la casa? ¿Es estructura o es sentimiento? Y cuando tú dices, mira, vamos para un lugar o vamos a hacer esto, vamos a hacer otra cosa, ¿qué es lo que te está motivando? Porque si es la paz, pues tiene mucho trabajo que hacer si no estás viviendo en un lugar que te trae la paz. Yo sé lo que tengo que hacer. Yo sé que donde estoy ahora en este momento, I know I feel where I'm at in this moment. There are pros and there are cons. The pros are there are lower crimes, there's more maturity, menos crimen, más maturidad, and I know that where I consider my home, right? Because this one here is more feels more temporal, right? When you go somewhere, you take a pilgrimage and you set camp or you go camping. What is that feeling? Is that feeling home to you? Right? Do you feel at home in the woods? ¿Tú te sientes como que estás en tu casa cuando tú estás en una finca? O mejor en una selva, un bosque. ¿O cómo te sientes cuando estás en el camping y estás en un lugar como en la selva, un bosque? ¿Cómo te sientes? ¿Te sientes como eso en tu casa? ¿O por qué hiciste eso? Why did you do that? Why did you go camping? Right? If you have a solid structure home, what feeling are you entertaining? ¿Cuáles sentimientos estás entreteniendo? Porque para mí, I look at rates of, hey, what's the rate of marriage? What are successful marriages? Are successful marriages uh, in one location succeeding or not succeeding? Right? So you look at the rates of divorce. Unfortunately, that plague of divorce, that devilish creation is there. And the rates in America are horrendous, right? The sanctity of marriage isn't really being protected. La santidad de ser casado, ya la gente no se quiere casar y están turulecos por la calle, para allá, para otro lugar, para allá, y con esta, con este, fulano, fulana. Eso es porquería, that's garbage. Because God, in many, many sacred books, the Bhagavad Gita, the Holy Bible, the Quran, the Torah, etc., states marriage between a husband and a wife. And many, many people in society don't work toward that. Some people, oh, I'm a single mom, baby daddies left and right, blah, blah, blah. Right? That's horrible. I worked all my life and yo trabajo y trabajo y trabajo. And for me, marriage is holy. Yeah, there may be bad moments, right? But are there really bad days? I and I've been struggling recently, right? Because I live in a society where, you get into an argument or a strife or bickering back and forth, right? Stresses of life. And all of a sudden, someone, right? Imagine your partner um telling treating their friends or acquaintances or classmates as therapists, right? And they tell them everything, and then that person then tells them or gives them advice, and that advice might be, oh, just divorce, just separate, right? Didn't Beyonce sing a song about all the single ladies? Yeah, she was married at the time and probably still is to Jay-Z, isn't that the case? But she's making a song about, oh, all the single ladies, yet herself doesn't reflect that. So huge contradiction. And in every single holy book that I've read that's reputable, marriage, one marriage, husband and wife can and may prosper. But in today's society, it's not treated like that because there are stepfather, or stepmothers, or step this and step that. And it's a horrible process. It's horrible. And as someone coming from that institution, right, unfortunately, right, experiencing, parents breaking up, horrible. As a kid, your heart breaks. You want your biological mom and your biological dad to be together. It is illogical, and anyone who tells you different is the devil. And that's Hare Krishna, Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesus, Amen. Because God wants kids to have their biological mom and dad. And sometimes the mom and dad may have arguments. A veces papá y mamá van a discutir y van a pelear. But if you're married, get work on that. And in today's society, just too many people are throwing out, oh, just divorce, oh, just separate. And that is horrible because those are not stakeholders besides wanting more of you, right? Your husband or wife gets less, they get more. And right, look at your friends. Do your friends, tus amigos, or if your extended family, do they respect the marriage that you are in? Or are they separators? I watched a movie recently, right? And why listen to me about movies? Well, I got a few movies that won many awards. Boricua en el Medio being one of them, Premios Latinos, España, etc. Visceral. Will you eat? So I've been in the movies for a very, very long. For me, the movies are a great opportunity to reflect on society. I recently watched that one movie, Sonic the Hedgehog, and there's so much racial tension in that movie. Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know if it's one, two, or three. It's Jim Carrey's like the villain. That movie is pretty much Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It is a place where there's high segregation, where there is no amalgamation. And if you want to experience real amalgamation, you should travel to Puerto Rico. You should visit and explore the most diverse place on earth. And then if you have the resources, the Dominican Republic, do your research. And I even, if you've earned it, you're a good person and you want to explore within, the continental United States, Florida, and invest in the places that are wholesome, the places that are low crime, high marriage, right, between biological mom and dad, and that's our conversation, right? So we started with Sonic the Hedgehog. I have a lot to say about that. If you want to listen to that, let me know. I'll make a review, movie critic review on Sonic the Hedgehog. That watch it, and there's so much monochrome. What I read about in my book, monochrome culture, so much racial tension and outright disrespect of amalgamated cultures, i.e., Borinquen, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, just the Caribbean as a whole, mixture and removing the term mix, but using the word multiplied. You want more of that? Go and listen to my music. I got a song, Multiplied, Don Rivera Diaz, that goes and covers that. That would be ethnic studies. Cover your basis for Caribbean studies and American history because Puerto Rican history is American history. So grab your drink. I'm drinking today watered down apple juice. Estoy tomando aquí jugo de manzana con poco de agua. Aquí con Yeshua Ben Yosef, Jesucristo, el doctor Díaz, Don Rivera Díaz. Y ya tú sabes, mi gente. Aquí tenemos, ¿quién es? Yeshua ben Yosef, Jesucristo. ¿Qué tenemos? ¿Quién es? Doctor Díaz y yo, Don Rivera Díaz. Okay, so Jesus, Dr. Diaz, Don Rivera Diaz, or just Don. We're going over the movie Sonic Hedgehog. Let me know why I say that that movie represents culture of segregation. Just let me know in the comments. Come back. And we're going over you need to invest in places that uphold your marriage and in relationships that uphold your marriage, right? If you're married, you have a family, you have kids. The conversation on divorce is out the window. That's a disrespect to God. That's a disrespect to the kids. And we live in a society where anyone in a relationship can throw that out. Divorce. I'll divorce you. Okay, what now? Do you go through with that? Or do you work it out as another obstacle? And I believe that prayer, and as I mentioned in one of my songs, Prayer is Wealth by Don Rivera Diaz, I go over that. I cover that. And we need to divest. We, let me rewind. We need to focus on preserving the relationships that we built within our nucleus. Nucleus being, right, from whoever's perspective, mom, dad, or husband and wife, kids, nucleus. Everyone else is extended family. And the extended family has to respect the boundaries, right? If someone in the relationship were to go to someone outside of the relationship with vital information and data, that would be very, very wrong and unethical and outright just very disrespectful. And I apologize to anyone I've ever disrespected. I live a life of I'm not going out to disrespect anyone, and and whenever people have trying to flung their drama onto me or their problems, I have to respectfully say I don't do drama. And maybe we'll have some merch soon. Let me know if you're interested in that. But here's the story. I was working at Starbucks as a barista a long, long time ago, probably during one of my bachelor's degrees, and I guess someone at the window ordered. ¿Verdad? So the person at the window told me, "Hey, you, tell that other person that they're rude and they should not work in customer service." And it's like, everyone in the store just heard you, and you're trying to use me as a vehicle for your negativity. And I just simply said to them, I don't do drama. And when I said that, I was just relieved because I'm sorry, I don't know what you're gonna rebuttal to that. And she just drove off. So, but what can you rebuttal to that? People have tried to put me right in the smackdown of their drama, and I've had to tell many, many people, and that's severed many relationships. I've simply told them I don't do drama. I always hold my cup with me unless I put it in the dog metal crate. I don't like to put my drinks. I can't put it in those dogs. Those two dogs that move around too much. I put it in this one. This one's calm too. So I never like to put my drinks on wood because um I don't know. I did crafts back in, I still do crafts and I love woodwork. And I know that if you put wet on wood, it starts to mold. And I've experienced so much mold in my life that I don't do that anymore. So you look at the pristine. Never put any drinks on these or your wood at all. So I'm just doing a scope here of everything. And all right, back to topic. We are here reflecting on what makes a home, right? ¿Qué es una casa? So for me, for us, una casa, a house is just an environment that you feel safe in, an environment that no one can take away. No one can take anything away from you. I lived in an environment where people have tried to take, and they have taken very bully cultures. Hey, those are the places that tend to be a lot crime heavy. Um, where there's a disrespect for the sanctity of marriage. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and really anything around Wisconsin or Milwaukee. um, St. Francis, Oak Creek, Wauwatosa, New Berlin. It's all close to the muck. And maybe call me a country boy. Sure, whatever. My grandfather was had his own farm, and it wasn't, what you may imagine, American farm. No, that was more of American farm would have been my paternal side, right? The Puerto Ricans who served in all American wars. But my maternal side, I had a farm in the Caribbean, farms actually. So I grew up just, being a farm boy and then experiencing the city. And for me, with the right resources, I invest back in, I invest back in the world. So when I think of, well, the lottery, right? La loteria, will I change my home, right? We're having a conversation on the home. Would I change that structure? Doing dishes right now, so bear with me. Please. I can see that, or is too, like, too dark. Let's see if I can get a little bit of light. Yeah, the light's off, but you hear it. Turn it back to me, take my back on. Turn off the water. I don't like to use the water. I like to just use enough. I do a lot of hand. I don't know if you can see me. Can you see me? Yeah, you can see me. Yep, you can see me. Okay. So I don't like to do when I'm doing dishes. I don't like to use unnecessary resources. I just like to clean the dish with my hands because I can, I use a sponge if I can, if there is a sponge accessible, but it's not dire. Sponges are cool and all. I can make, they just change the job a little bit. But by hand, you can, really get into it. And then I make the wand, and I'll try those wands. But we're talking about home, right? I know that aspect of home, right? The luxuries and comfort of you turn down the faucet, getting my water. For me, I've been the person without water. I've been the person, my family experiencing, hardship. So it's a luxury, but it's also one that we all should have. And what's the basis for this? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just really it's but Hindus, Rahu was on a Joe Rogan experience, and plug in Joe Rogan for that specific episode. And said, yeah, and everyone should be wealthy, everyone should be rich, and should not be doing hard labor, should not be doing hard work. We would have a much safer world. We would have more resources spread out evenly. We would have more happiness, which, the depression rates would decline severely. And if everyone was wealthy, like born into wealth, and did, creative jobs of their choosing just to make the world a better place, right? Having that common goal in every country, every nationality, that the world will be a better place. And I had thought of that for a long time, but anytime I brought it up, people were, blah, blah, blah. Oh, look who's talking. University kids talking, right? Because I was always the school kid. If I wasn't in school, right, because of summer break or vacation, I was in the library or I was in some sort of computer lab or creative project around town or out of town, in state and out of state. So I've experienced that. And let me fill up on my water now that I just did all the dishes. I've stained my shirt, but I think I'm just gonna move my shirt over to my room. So we're celebrating my 35th birthday. Estábamos celebrando el cumpleaños 35, which we have a lot of content out surrounding that. So if you're interested, go check that out. And I gotta do the stretch, or else my chest gets tight. So I do these whirlwinds. And if you can ever get tight chest, I developed this. I noticed when I was working at a Lutheran school, and the stress in my life just that unfortunately unjustly increased the stress in my life so much, the anxiety and the depression. Working at a specific Lutheran school, RCLS, people were very racist and xenophobic and treated me horrible. Honestly, reflecting what you on here on my channel that we were monetized on. Water down, apple juice. And all right, let's reflect because we talk about everything and anything here. Don Rivera Diaz, as you all know, my band got done Love and Care got TLC also pushes out content. So if you're interested in me and more collabos and more guided content of Love and Care, go free up some space on your phone and go check that out. Also, we have merch, and if you become a member, you get exclusive content, really good content. All right, so I worked at this school, RCLS, and I go there and I'm happy. I'm very optimistic. I've been chanting all throughout. Happy as can be. I was skipping my way through town because after so many applications and so many rejections, as a beacon of light shows up. Now, anytime I've been a teacher, I've usually been an agency teacher, and I've pushed the agenda in that I always, always, always attribute me not being hired on directly by a school district, besides for like I think 1 or 2 years for random districts. Um, but even those were very agency based, like the way they structured everything and the contracts, the way they spoke to me. It wasn't like they were ever planning to make me tenure. They were just filling a role because someone was breathing down their neck. But okay, so best teaching experience, right? Let's start off grateful. My birthday, right, and Father's Day, and I have to thank T. Urick in my life. T. Urick is an exemplary man. T. Urick, the director of Upward Bound in various places, right? In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and hey, if I remember correctly, Arizona. Um, T. Urick is an amazing human for me. T. Urick, I have many stories with T. Urick. T. Urick is a very man. Okay, okay. We got Yeshua with Joseph here. Jesus Christ. We got Dr. Diaz, Dr. Diaz, and we got me, Don Rivera Diaz, right? Don. And T. Urick, right? I met him through a university professor. I was working on a movie titled Boricua en el Medio. Boricua en el Medio took me all around the world. Boricua en el Medio won many, and is still winning many awards. The most notable being Los Premios Latino España. Boricua en el Medio won it. And we performed and traveled. Shout out the Afro Caribe Cultural Center, Humboldt Park, Chicago, Illinois. Shout out UCC, United Latino Community Center. Shout out to Miramar, who gave me one of my first opportunities performing, and Marquette University High School, Marquette University, the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Parkway, Madison, MATC, Milwaukee Area Technical, for education, right? For a very disciplined way of education, schooling. And I have to thank T. Urick in my life because T. Urick, the director of Upward Bound, provided me and as well as many people opportunities. He walked into my life, and I viewed him as a Jesus Christ character. No lie. I mean, he looks at Jesus Christ depictions of death, and my name being Angel and my dad's name being Angel. I was like, hey, I am very inspired by T. Urick, and T. Urick for me inspires opportunity. T. Urick is for me an exemplar in society. He gave me one of my first opportunities in teaching. My university professor, Professor Sean Kafer, um, who, always had a gleam to his eyes and treated me with the utmost respect. Even defended me a few times, right? Like I remember this is a Sean Kafer story. So Sean Kafer, Professor Sean Kafer, I have a lot of respect for Sean Kafer, Professor Sean Kafer. I say that because I treat, he had friend energy as a professor, right? Just a cool cat, cool dude. And so Sean Kafer was offered an opportunity to be a professor at Marquette University. He couldn't do that because he was already a professor at a UWM, University of Wisconsin Milwaukee. And I'm over here just doing my thing. I'm working on Bodyguard en Medio. I'm interviewing artists and doctors and authors and working closely with the radio, working closely with the news. Um, Movie premieres left and right. Me and S.I.A. Morales hanging out, partying. And he did promise me to put me in a movie one day. I sent him one of my short films, spoken word poetry that I don't know it's available. If you watch this and you want it, put it in the comments. I'll dig through it. I'll see if I can find it and maybe reproduce it here. So by popular demand, it's called Bloodline. And he loved it. And he said, hey, we need to see more of this. And I kept producing what I believe was more of that, but never caught or never busy, busy. I understand it, but I appreciate him saying that. Hey, I want you in a movie one day, and reach out to me, and I did. And I kept working. I kept building my portfolio. But what found me an opportunity was and is education, and specifically teaching. From being a professor at the top ranked university in my state for over 5 years to being a pre-K, or actually, yeah, super pre-K babies, all the way up to super seniors in high school, right? Being a case manager and special education teacher, dabbled in general education right through my professorship. And these are characters, these are people in my life that have had a important role. So I just want to thank them. I want to thank their role. I want to thank who they are and were. And with Team Urich, he opened the door for me teaching. Right, I viewed him as Jesus Christ. He came up to me one day, invited me to a Marquette University get together, and everyone was there: students, parents, community, and news. And came up to me, gave me a big hug, and said, "Hey, we're gonna make history, and I believe in you. I'm so happy that you're here, and you're saving my butt." He said that. He said, "You're saving me right now because." I just couldn't find someone, and everything rolls by quickly. As these students wouldn't not have had someone to teach. And your professor, Professor Sean Kafer, speaks volumes of you. Well, I skipped a part, a very important part. Rewind. Before that happened, Sean Kafer to me loves my movie. He loves what I'm coming up with. He loves my pitches, and the entire class would critique your work very, very critically. Like no one bit their tongue. We've had very great filmmakers there and movies. Some have won national awards and traveled all around the world. Very, very, very attuned group of students who I am fortunate to have worked with. So I'm working on mine, and mine is so different than anyone else's work because, right, they're taking on the sci-fi, they're taking on the Star Wars and Star Trek, or sort of like this, the mainstream, or some are even doing non-mainstream and surrealist. So everyone's film was different in their own unique way, and I took a unique approach, and I was the only one working on a bio documentary. And technically it's biofilm documentary, so I know that the verbiage changes depending on region and time. So when I worked on this film Boricua en el Medio, that won many, many awards and gave me so many opportunities, I learned a lot. Just free education and free, accessible resources. The world was opening up, and rubbing shoulders with S.I.A. Morales, right, the filmmaker, and other filmmakers, Lourdes Reynolds or Corlones, you all may know her from Create Option C and many, many other films, um, Marichui, etc. I kept on teaching because, hey, my portfolio became that work that the university required and admired and revered. So under TRX banner, I worked. He offered me the position. I became a professor, and there I was, 5 years. And then not only that, but they were moving things around. And TRX was the director of the program at Marquette University. Said to me, "You should run for the information technology directorship position." And I said, "And this, and being a professor as well?" "Yeah, all of it. You'll be on campus all the time. You'll live on campus." And they did offer me that. And my co-teacher, who was and still is a professor at, I don't want to say what university, but a professor at a very distinguished university, um, said, "I will back you up. I will write you a reference letter. I will walk you to the office and you apply, and because this is your position." Because our conversation was always geared to that. They're like, "Wow, you do, this multimedia side of you also has this component of information technology, right?" And I was just always inclined anything technology. and I was offered this position, and I went upon, upon the console, and then things became very, very, unfortunately, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, real, which is segregation, racism, xenophobia, all bundled in one. Uh, so what happened next was that I went upon them, right? T. Uric was there, and smiling at me the entire time, giving me the thumbs up because, right, a formal interview was required. He's not the only hiring manager. There are many hiring managers. He just happens to be one of them, a very distinguished one as being the director. But everyone has their different titles, like vice president here, president there, chief of human resources here, etc. Well, there are other powerful people. And then something came up, and that something was that after the interview, they said, "Yeah, get back to me," and then they were discussing. And Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is a place of high segregation. Someone who is, I don't identify as Crayola color white or Crayola color black. I don't. I right in my entire life, I've seen it. I've experienced it. Diversity, true amalgamated diversity. Upon me, my family, my nucleus, we are everything. And for me, that binary black and or white monochrome culture doesn't exist. That's why I wrote a book, Monochrome Culture. Read it at your discretion. It was a book that I wrote a long time ago. I will reread my own work to see if I agree with my words and maybe my experiences are less severe or more harsh, depending on the time that I've spent away from the work, right? Living life and just very blessed to have opportunities like what I'm doing right now in information technology, technology as a whole, right? So I want to get back into our conversation on these people who meant so much to me and their roles. Most importantly, their roles. T. Urich, right, the director, very prestigious role. Pretty much said and backed ever and said, "Hey, that's my guy." I told him to apply. That's who I'm voting for me as the director and part of this hiring council. And I thought I had a job because not only was it him, but everyone in our cohort, the secretaries, other teachers, other professors, people, the director of people and culture and staff, others as well, all backed me in saying he should be leading the information technology here. And I had worked in the program, not in information technology, but in multimedia technology as a professor. So I would have been juggling two different roles, very possible at the university level. And something came up maybe a week later while they were all discussing and getting everything ready, right, to give me an offer letter. T got an offer to go work as a director in Arizona, and he was gone. Like he was like, "That's it," like just gone, like not finishing the semester. Like I guess for me, it's kind of like you have the right to go. That's cool. And I respect him for that. But, like to finish, I don't know. I guess I expected him there longer. Maybe I hoped that he would be there longer because he's such a positive, influential figure in my life. But then, I thought like maybe finish off for the summer, finish off for the remainder of the semester. But I was like, nope, gone next week. And, just that's how opportunities happen. That's how I became a teacher as well. So I understand it. Ah, and then I was sort of like, oh, okay, well, I'll visit UT and because and stuff like that, uh because I hold so much respect for him and as my mentor, a great, very, very inspirational mentor, right? He would always talk to me about the perspectives of time and philosophy, his ideologies, just a very brilliant person. And him and I walked the valley together. And the valley is a very, very dangerous place. I don't know how Mr. T. Urick feels about it, but it's a place, I would walk the valley right from work because parking was very, very difficult to acquire. Parking was never provided for us ever. So, I mean, there was a 2-hour parking spot, and then they would ticket you if you passed the 2 hours, I believe. But that was always usually taken. So we parked in the valley versus paying for like $5 per hour or something like that while making, yeah, I'm not gonna say how much I made, but very, very blessed opportunity. I would say that overall, just a very blessed opportunity. It made me a teacher, right? I stepped into teaching while being a professor. Many people don't do that. They are teachers first and then professors. And I was a professor before I was a teacher. And
Mr. T. Urich, him and I walked the valley. And the valley was where people got mugged. The valley was where people got beat up and crime happened. People would linger there and there would be deaths. And the valley, people feel different about it, but I know the valley very well. I know that T might have a more optimistic perspective. And T, I would definitely want to hear your thoughts, so let me know. But I would, my MMA training gym was located in the valley. And there would be we would see things after hours. We would experience things during training. And I was right in the valley, and I remember T walking, him and I walking the same street, and me thinking, "Hey, this is Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, like Rush Hour. We've got each other's backs." And he's always someone I felt comfortable with, right? Read some of my Medium articles, and I'll tell you why that's very vital and essential to this story. So, yes, this movie does require that you go check out my articles, and you'll get a bigger perspective on it, a more fuller picture. So, T and I walk the valley. He goes left. I go right. I park right. My gym's over there, like right there. And some of the students, my students would come train. They would tell me about the problem. People just always felt comfortable talking to me. They'll tell me about what was going on and if I had any suggestions. And I would invite students to come train. Sometimes like a quick training session, being around the right people who just want to, train and protect their family, are very familial, and just want to be good people and just, good, wholesome people, martial artists, not fighters. Like, yeah, some of them who enter the gym are straight up fighters, brawlers, but that martial arts, wholesome person, right? Of not doing harm unto others. They're respecting every single rose petal and person. And that gym taught me a lot about life. Yes, there was a martial arts component, but that was a very street Krav Maga, street fight, martial arts. There was really no sport component to it, like some of the other gyms that I trained at for many, many years. And right, there's a sport component and a real life component. So at that gym in the valley, we trained in real life. And if you didn't want to train and you came with that sports stuff, they would drop you on your head. The sports stuff, you pull a guard, and hey, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but in the street, you got so many tools that the octagon or the hexagon or whatever ring or arena you are in would allow. In the street, anything goes and anything happens, and that is why in police school and even during my training for the U.S. Military, and my martial arts training in the Valley was ROTC. Everyone or or still is, right at that time, part of the some sort of U.S. government, military, secret service, FBI, police, something, right? Anything from Air Force to Army privates and officers, and we had it was just a whole right away. And I related to them, right? My dad being and my grandfather both being Army heroes and veterans, growing up around veterans. I related to that. My role was the professor there, right? I was coming from a day of teaching, and I would just go there and train. And the valley was a very dangerous place. T and I walked in together. Um, and then at the martial arts gym, right, where we would hear and see things, we would always prepare. I remember sometimes we would be training and they were like, hey, wait, what just happened out there? Because we would keep the window open to hear what's going outside. The trainer, the head coach, Dimitri Bauer does MMA, who was also very, very, very accomplished military man, very, very righteous person. Dimitri Bauer, if I lived in the area, I was like, hey, you're my son's godfather, but I'm somewhere else in life. But that's who, to me, I felt during my college years had my back. I mean, I would go to college. I was a freshman, first generation college. My hobby, what was it? Buying houses, real estate, working martial arts, anthropology, which is one of my degrees, filmmaking, media, journalism, all that stuff. And Dimitri Bayer is a very, very noble man. From what I remember, Ukraine, um, ambitious, I remember I just me being who I was in my neighborhood. Sometimes people would seek me out and look for problems. And Dimitri gave me the same security of, hey, in the street, I got your back. And I felt the same way. Like he could call me at whatever time or text me. Text me was always better, just very visual. Tell me if he needed me to be somewhere to pick him up. Like these are real people, real stories, right? He was in so many altercations, and that's why he was an accomplished and is accomplished martial artist because his technique was what saved me in the street. And then I just kept drilling and training, and he was is one of my most solid coaches that I've ever had. I remember I trained at his gym. I trained at a few hundred gyms, and then I traveled Costa Rica, where you all know jiu-jitsu is a huge thing, boxing, really MMA. It was an MMA gym, but some of the guys that I hung out with were like that, those specific like regions of MMA. And then I would come back to the area and train with Dimitri. And Dimitri was so effective in his training in that what he taught me then still applies to my life now. Like Dimitri Byer for me, he reminded me of my dad. He gave me my dad vibes. My dad passed away in the sixth grade, my sixth grade, right? And sorry, my shoulder. I've been aiding the shoulder. Just been shadow boxing and doing yoga and tai chi, um, Iyengar yoga. So if you all want to get on the Iyengar yoga, if you want to help train your body, you can also try DDPY yoga. All right, commercial over. So Dimitri Byer for me, man, I was just at my house, and some people would be messing around. As people would be tagging your garage, and people would be trying to break into your car windows, break into your house left and right. Just a very, very environment that was very crime heavy, and people normalized the crime. And I fought against that. And Dimitri Bai was like, I know how it is out there. I'm gonna train you martial arts, and he even had on his homepage, I'm just here to train my friends and family and whoever wants to, good people that want to learn how to protect themselves out in the real world. And I saw that at the university campus, and yeah, I mean, I've been training my entire life in some sort of capacity. My dad to start me off in boxing. My dad was a military boxer and training partner to Roberto Duran. So my dad was my first coach, and then my mom and dad putting their heads together said, let's add some kicks. They put me in Taekwondo and became a black belt in Taekwondo. And then I trained other stuff like Aikido at the university level, kickboxing, what else do we Hapkido, everything. I was in every single martial arts class. I was bouncing left and bouncing right, and sometimes I would like be doing both at the same time. So I would train, and then his gym, because I was all at the university, right? And then my time was elsewhere, completely opposite side of town, and I was competing and just to employ my dad's techniques. I did wrestling in high school, varsity. So yeah, my martial arts has been there for a long, long time. But it wasn't until I met Dimitri that I really started to put the pieces together. It became less of a sport and more about practicality, right? So less sport, more practical, the stuff that would work. Like sometimes, like I've used my real techniques that we've trained and drilled out in the real world, all right, against cholos, against gangsters, against people trying to rob me or trying to rob my house or trying to inflict harm. I've been in so many situations. And I'm here to tell you how what they are and also thank a lot of good people along the way. So, Dimitri Byer, I want to thank you, man, for training me, for spending time with me, for always giving me solid suggestions. And I don't say advice because I've watched that one movie with Al Pacino where they're like, advice? What's that? What is it? The worst vice is advice. So I use the word suggestions because what are you going to say about that? So, yeah, just you helped me so much during my life at a time where I was transitioning from being a minor to of age, right? um because I joined you like in freshman, right? That transition from high school to freshman in college, first generation, so just fresh for me. I was just just going to another 13th grade class right after graduating from high school, which was the best high school in all of town, Marquette University High School. I want to thank their Mr. Jim Carney, Mr. Wilkinson, Mr. Alton Taylor, as well as many, many others, which we'll get to later. But Dimitri Byer, taught me everything in martial arts, like all the fundamentals that I had been employing, but now putting the pieces together, like putting mats together. And something about um, training like arms and training um, with him and training like real martial arts and having, I was always, besides him and I, we were always the smallest ones in the gym. Dimitri and I were about to like same size, different body types, but um, but both very very strong. I mean, dude was like muscle, just muscle walking, just muscle, and uh, provided me a lot of really really functional training. And then the huge giant heavyweights that we had there were military trained, just huge martial artists. And yeah, we worked, sort of that hoist gracie technique of being the smaller person in the gym, but just our work ethic and our perseverance and grit helped us. And I was, in a few situations then that I shouldn't have been in, that I was put in, like, right, someone trying to beat my mom, right? My mom having a boyfriend that tries to beat her, and then I'm over here in university, I'm over here working, and all of a sudden, I visit her and I start to notice certain things like, what is that? And then the stuff happens around me, and I have to, calm the situation down, and they start to try to treat me that way, and I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not what Sensei Dimitri Bayer taught me, or Sensei J Clip, or Sensei uh, Aro, nuh-uh, or Sensei Angel Luis Rivera Diaz, U.S. Army, or Sensei Shung, Master Shung, etc., or none, any of my training partners. No, respect all around. So, growing up around domestic violence my entire life, martial arts is that gateway out of that. So for me, with our conversation earlier, I'm not sure if the stream cut out, but our conversation earlier was about what makes a place a place. Una casa, right? A house, your home. What makes it? Is it a structure? Is it a feeling? For me, it's peace. For me, it's Auspicious, which I write about a lot in my music and my songs. Go check those out. I have playlists and free music for you all, and the music videos, pumping those out as much as we can, as well as the vlogs and the podcast. If you want to be on our podcast, just reach out. If you reach out and I don't get back to you until later, don't worry about it. But check out some of the books that I've written, the merch that we have, and the content that we keep producing. Getting back to the people that I want to thank, right? We've got so many. So, Dimitri Bauer, there's so much to say about you. You're a wise person, and I learned so much from you. I hope to train with you one day again. Um, yeah, just fighting gangsters that beat up my mom and robbed her, and in that type of neighborhood. And your techniques really, really helped. And you would always give good advice and suggestions. You advice. So suggestions, we're not going to seek out problems. We're not going to throw ourselves into the lion's den. But if backed up against the wall, like, what can you do? Like, and I've been in those positions. Unfortunately, they tried to target me over at that one mall that Milwaukee has, Bayshore. Out of my wife and I were walking through Bayshore, and I really don't go there, but they're like, "Oh, that's the best mall, safest." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I don't really do the malls, but let's go there and see what they have and walk it." And then some people try to target me, and people have always tried to target me. I attribute it to colorism, right? I got green eyes, and people with green eyes are statistically more sought out after, and especially violently. So I attribute it to that, because I've always been told that I'm ethnically ambiguous, but no, it's like redheads. People I target redheads. Well, people also target people with green eyes, and mine are like green blue. And there's also a study on blue eyes. I'll get into that later. Just reach out to me and ask. But they targeted me for no reason. I go into the bathroom and I don't use the urinal. I never really use the urinal because I feel like my back is like exposed, right? Martial arts training. I just feel like someone can jump on you. So I go into the toilet, I close it, I start to, use the bathroom, and then I right away, like I start to hear something like loudness. I start to hear like clamoring, like yelling and fighting and banging up against the walls and with loudness. And I hear that, and my wife is out there waiting for me, and I'm like, "What the heck is going on?" So I finish up quickly, like I'm getting finishing up, and I notice up top someone has their phone and they're recording me and then they're kicking in the stall. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? What the hell's going on? And I'm thinking, is my wife getting jumped right now? So I open the door. Well, I say, "Are you recording me?" Like, and then I open the door, and I don't confront them. I run out of the bathroom, and I'm like, "Where's my wife? Where's my wife?" I'm looking for her, making sure she's all right. And they're like surrounding her for some fucking reason. And what did the police say? What's the race? Black, age range? I don't know. 15 to 30 plus. Um, so big. I've always been one of the smartest people in the gym. They're big, bunch of big bullies. And the people that surrounding her were like five or six. And then I look over there and they're like telling the rest to come. And they're like five, six more over there. And then I felt like a gang. And then the two were in the bathroom doing that stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And they're like, I was like, hey, your buddy was, why was he in the recording? Who are you guys? What are you doing? And I tell them that, and then I don't know what they say. They're like, "No, they weren't recording you. You just want to stop robbing, man. We gonna rob you." And they're saying stuff like that, and they're surrounding, like they had already been surrounding my wife, and I'm next to her, and she's like, "You don't want to mess with us." Hold on, I gotta wash my hands for this. I don't know what I touched, but I touched something sticky. You want to hear this? You want to hear my wife told them? Hold on, wash my hand. All right. And where's my drink? Where's my drink? Remember, if you are listening, make sure you keep hydrated. Wait, being thirsty is the first sign of dehydration, so you want to keep hydrated. I was just putting in some drinks that were left out. Hey, which I could drink, but I don't want to drink juice. I've been looking for water this entirety, and all we have is blessed apple juice. Thank you. I enjoy apple juice, but I just want like water. I do have sparkling water, so we're gonna crack that open. I've been drinking apple juice with like, because I think they watered it down, but it just felt so sweet. Which I love sweet, like my favorite. But right now, I just want to have like like clean, pure water. All right, so I'm gonna put it in my cup. Yeah, I know you want to hear more. This is a good one. What did my wife tell these people? All right. Uh, all right, so you want to hear, tú quieres escuchar lo que mi esposa dijo to them. She's like, you don't want to mess with my husband. He trains martial arts with real UFC fighters. Yes, that's true. That is true. Yeah, that's true. But at that point, my hand was in my jacket. I was not about brandishing. I don't agree with brandishing. Every day that I live, I pray that I never have to use it. Mhm. Her name is Svetlana, and I pray that I never have to use Svetlana in that way. I pray every day. But my hand was in my jacket. We were being surrounded. And then they say, "Oh, You got a gun. We got guns too. Like, what the fuck? I don't say anything. I'm like, hey man, I just don't want you recording me. If you have it, erase it. I got nothing against y'all. And I was saying that, I was like, um, and resolving the situation because we're about to get jumped. But I might be able to do a Kamehameha or two or three and put us in a position that's not as bad. So, um, I remember I was like on alert, like my wife is here and she's saying, leave us alone. You don't want to mess with him. Why are y'all acting this way? She's defending us in that way. I appreciate her kind words, but in martial arts, we're taught, you got to retreat. And we train that if we're back up onto the wall, like Rosie Perez said, Puerto Ricans, a lot of the times, good Puerto Ricans, we don't seek out trouble. You don't seek out problems if you're a Boricua, right? You got no criminal record, you're a good person, you're not evil, right? You're good. So Boricua and Rosie Perez, she said it. She's like, we're like pin us into a wall and we got to fight back and we got to, defend ourselves. I think that when recently in the mixed martial arts, where we were philosophy of the of this sort of creature that when backed up against the wall, like really fights, but generally is very gentle. And they said Tom Aspinall's that. I forget what the animal is, but it's a very unique name. All right, so that happens. But then I look and I see security, two security walking, like they're like, and I wait, like, I got my drink here, and I like to put drinks on, you know, on uh on wood. So I'm gonna put it somewhere that's not wood. Okay. So my hand's in my jacket because I don't want to brandish, but I do have to defend us. And with my other hand, I weigh the security, and then the security run, right? They run toward us, and they know exactly what's going on. They were looking, they've been warned about that gang, all black gang, and and living in the most segregated place. Unfortunately, the blacks never viewed me as black. The whites never viewed me as white. And what's the next demographic? Mexican. Okay, I'm not Mexican. Nationally or ethnically, maybe like heritage wise, like a certain percentage genetically a long time ago, but I'm a very minute culture, right? Caribbean and very specific Caribbean that is just a very low population with no power, with no autonomy, with no resources, with disproportionate resources and targeted in society by everyone of every single color. And crabs in a bucket culture. So they targeted me, they're targeting my wife, maybe it's all white girl. Maybe I got one of my babies crying, probably cramps. Yeah, one of my babies is crying from cramps, so I gotta be on alert. But that happens, and then they all scatter. Okay, so it sounds like she's fine. Let me go check. All right, everyone's good. So that happens. Let me check with my son. Good. So that happens. They scatter. I never whip mine out. I just it's ready in my jacket, and it was very interesting because I would put it in my jacket, and that's how I would never have to use it. Um, so I never take it out, and I don't brandish, but I'm ready as much as I can be. I don't know what's gonna happen. And now scatter every single one of them. There's so many of them in that gang, and they got it all on camera. My wife was there. We still remember it to this day. It was just a very, very one of those experiences. All right, everyone. Hope that you've learned a lot. I still got more stories if you want to keep track. If I mention you, I will reach out to you with the link. You'll have to find it on your own, possibly, unless I have time to like timestamp everything. Or maybe you want to timestamp it and just send it to me, and I can just use your data and give you credit. Let me know if I mention you or anything. I will reach out to you. If I don't mention you and I keep creating, right, these reflections, then just subscribe and turn notifications on, and anytime I post anything, you'll get a alert. So yeah, we got music, we got movies, award-winning films, content, rescue animals, right? Every animal that you see is a rescue animal on our streams, and any merch that you buy or any donation or any, I don't know, whatever we projects we got going on that you invest in always goes back to our animal rescues, our family, sustenance. So, good things, good circulation, very haram. All right, everyone, see you later.